London, welcome to Wiser HQ! For those of you who don't know me, my name's Lou by day. I'm Associate Director of Wiser Elite by night, not to make myself sound like Batman or anything. I'm founder of SDRs of London. I want to kick things off this evening by saying a massive thank you to our sponsor for the evening, probably the most famous green logo in B2B SaaS. It's Aircall. How this evening is going to go. So we're going to be discussing everything doing more with less in the current climate. I think we all know what that means. I think we've all probably felt what that means over the course of the last few months. How it's going to go. 35-minute panel, have a few questions at the end, then small break, pizza, wine, beer, and then we will come back together and start listening to some real cold call recordings, dissecting them, and hopefully give you guys some actionable insights that you can take away from the moment you start picking up the phone tomorrow. But before I pass over to the panel,
Yeah, absolutely. So lovely to see you all. If you're not a member of any of our communities so far, we've got SDRs of London, A's of London, making moves for women in tech sales. And always do that every time. The Elite, which is for leaders and founders, for all those SDR managers that are here tonight. We'd love to have you as part of that community as well. We'll be sending a, yes, you know this, promotion. Yes, you can. I'll be sending you an email with all of the registration links after this. If you guys would like to connect with our amazing panelists tonight, you've got your Aircall cards on your seats. Please do scan the registration, like the QR code, and also visit their website through the QR code if you want to learn more about their platform. And then lastly, you've probably seen all of these things plastered all over the room, but for those that don't know, if you haven't been looking on LinkedIn, I don't know what you've been looking at because it's been everywhere thanks to Lucy. But we are hosting an awards on the 18th of May called the Elites. It's for the whole tech sales industry. We've got 7 different categories: Women in Tech Sales Award, Leadership, Account Management, Customer Success, SDR, AE, you name it. We'd love for you guys to nominate. Nominations close on Tuesday. So again, scan the QR code to nominate, completely free to do so. We'd love to celebrate your successes. So, without ado,
Hello everybody. I haven't got a microphone so I'll project, but we'll start with some introductions. Hi, nice to meet you all. My name's Sean. So my role at Aircall is Senior Director of Business Development, and I've also got the honour of moderating the panel tonight. I don't know who thought I was qualified for this. I'll be channeling my inner Fiona Bruce for the next 35 minutes, but we'll start with introductions. Lucy.
I've dodged your eye then, so I'll go structure. But hi, my name's Lucy Obertelli. I'm SDR team lead at SourceWhale. I've been with SourceWhale since November last year and came into the leadership position in January. Bit of job history, we'll keep it short and sweet. Used to work at Lego as an SDR, and then before that was actually on Sean's team at Aircall. So yeah, it's a very full circle moment. And if you didn't get a bit of a tear when you read my LinkedIn post today, then yeah, I don't know what will make you cry. But yeah, that's me in a nutshell, I guess.
Hello, my name's Ellie. I am the head of SDR at Relevance, which is a MarTech platform. I've been in the role for just over a year. My background's actually not in SaaS at all, so I have been in tech sales for just over 2.5 years. Prior to that, I spent sort of 5 or 6 years working in professional sport, so a little bit of a difference in background. I spent my days sort of following the tennis tour all over the world, so massive change of scenery, but loving it so far. And yeah, that's pretty much me. I promise I'd be concise.
My name's David. I'm the Director of Sales Development at Cognism. My journey is I flew to Australia to chase a girl, and then that didn't go well. And then I picked up a commission-only door-to-door sale for a company called HelloFresh, really small company. And 3 years later, I was running their full door-to-door sales team out in Oz, which is super cool. Came back, got an SDR job at Cognism, and then we've grown from 5 to 75 SDRs globally now. So, yeah, pretty cool, pretty fun.
Amazing. So we had a catch up last week. Firstly, it's so nice to see so many smiling faces here tonight. We're looking forward to wiping all the smiles off your faces. We want to talk about how the world's on its knees. All of your jobs are getting harder. ChatGPT will take all our jobs soon. So you'll all have fully remote roles living off universal basic income. So this is kind of where we're going to go with the conversation. But honestly, actually, coming out of the conversation, I do believe that we'll be talking, giving a little bit of hope to proceedings. I think these are stormy seas, but you will probably see that you're not the only SDRs, SDR managers, SDR teams navigating them. And I think if we do come together in communities like this, thank you Wiser for allowing us to do so. Yeah, I think everything seems a little less daunting when we do it together. Let's crack on. Ellie.
Hello.
Let's talk channels. Calling, emailing, direct mail, you name it, there's channels. Which are you focusing on in particular right now, Fresh Relevance?
Yeah, that's a great question. I probably would say, which is probably a really rubbish answer, but all of them. I think one of the big things we're trying to focus on at the moment is spreading our net a little bit wider. Traditionally, our best channel is the phones, and we've always succeeded very heavily on the phones and relied upon them quite drastically. I actually said to the team this morning, I was looking at the reports, and this is the first month that we had more meetings coming from other channels than phones, which is, shows quite a big shift. Realistically, despite the fact that we are a Cognism partner, connections are getting harder. It's harder to get people on the phone. We're trying to prospect into the US, and that's a whole different ballgame. So yeah, I'm really encouraging sort of video prospecting, LinkedIn prospecting. I said say to the team, if you imagine you're like fishing in lots of different pools, realistically your prospects want to be prospected in different ways. So if I asked you, how do you like to be prospected? You might say
Gift bags.
Gift bags, okay.
Gift baskets. Lunches, things like that.
David, if you read his LinkedIn, he loves cold call. Me personally, I love anything on LinkedIn. That's where I'm going to get a response. Lucy?
A bit of everything.
Bit of everything. There you go. So I think if you were to imagine sort of scaling that and asking everybody that you prospect, and you had the luxury of doing that, everyone's got a different response, right? So for me, it's not good enough just saying, okay, well I'm really good on the phone, because you're going to narrow down your prospecting. So yeah, long story short, we are trying our best to get good at everything.
So for a company that books most of the stuff with the phone, how many calls do your SDRs make a day? Just out of interest as well.
It varies. I say we're pretty much on 200 a week per person.
Cool. Okay. Yeah, you do the math. Lucy, you have a very strong LinkedIn presence, and I've always wondered when I see kind of what people like yourself who have that strong LinkedIn presence. Is it enough? Can you get to target each month just on LinkedIn alone?
Definitely not. I think if it was, I'd probably be on a yacht somewhere. Definitely not chatting here, but definitely. It's that you can't sort of get to target, particularly not sort of in the client that we're now just using one channel. And I think historically you could pull a lever and you think, if I send out X amount of LinkedIn messages, it's going to get me to target. Whereas now, I think that omni-channel approach is key, and I think something that Ellie sort of said and alluded to is that it's really important, like the majority of your meetings have come not from the phone, so if you're reliant on one thing, then you're missing out on opportunities in different sort of areas of outreach where you could be, winning basically. But I think it's a really interesting one, but an omni-channel approach is key. I think everybody's sick to death of hearing that statement, but I think sort of during this sort of climate that we're in, the importance is actually doing it and not just being reliant on those things that work. If I had to put it down to one thing though, I think where can you have the most effective omni-channel approach? It's by getting on the phone and speaking to people, by having more conversations with prospects. You're going to get an idea of what is the pain points right now. They're different to what they were 3 months ago, so it's really important to keep doing that, and doing so you'll write better emails, you'll send better LinkedIn messages, just because you have better lays of land. So
Amazing, thanks for that. How many channels do you work in omnichannel? I don't, off the top of your head.
I'm gonna say 6.
6.
Yeah.
Phone, email, LinkedIn, video,
but then postings a way of doing it as well.
Nice.
So
cool. There's one more still. No, I'm joking.
Nothing bad.
No. And events. So Dave, Cognism provide direct lines. Aircall provide a means of calling direct lines. And it's no surprise that it's no surprise that we're both fond of cold call. Why do we still keep hearing that cold call is dead?
Why do we keep hearing? It's not, first and foremost. Why do we keep hearing cold calling is dead? I think the reality is people post that cold calling is dead are the people that are really grumpy, and then they always wake up and they just hate life, and then they post on LinkedIn about the fact they hate cold call and they receive one cold call and they hate it, and that's why. I mean, Ellie said it right. Like, everybody has their medium that they prefer. I much prefer people cold calling me, one, because I try and poach them if they're really good, and two, because, which saves you a job.
Don't worry, next one.
And two, because for me, like, I like how short I can be on conversation. We're hiring right now. I'm so loyal to Wiser that I'm being bombarded by recruitment calls, which is fine, but it's very easy for me to shut them down very quickly because I know all the objections, I know the process, so it's super easy for me. I mean, overall, Cognism books 60% of our meetings from cold calling, 20% from LinkedIn, about 10% from email, 5 other. But I would say, and just to add a bit of balance, right, I think like it really does depend on the product that you sell. Because you'll hear a lot like, oh, you need to cold call, you need to cold call, you need to cold call. To be honest with you, if I was like targeting CTOs or individuals that perhaps are naturally more introverted, although I still believe in the omnichannel approach, I might actually reduce that number. We sell to salespeople, right? Like, we're literally selling an SDR product. Of course, like, calling is going to be the best medium for us. So, like, as much as, cold calling again is the best medium for us, like, you really do need to think about where your market is most likely to sit, as well as doing it.
Yeah. It's actually, we hear a lot about people adjusting your pitch to prospects, but adjusting your channel to prospects is something that probably people talk about most. Interesting, I think to sum up on the channels, I suppose many of the answers are ones that we probably would have had before the current kind of crisis, if you will. I think maybe also speaks to the fact that in sales development for the last few years or more, it's been about moving away from spray and pray to ABM and personalization. So essentially we've been doing more with less for years now. So maybe we are the team and department that are most equipped to deal with these times. Maybe. That said, you can't ignore the headlines, and whether it be Salesforce, HubSpot, there's a lot of big companies who are laying people off, and I think you could take 2 approaches. Welcome. You could take 2 approaches, which is you could close your eyes, put a tin hat on, hope you get out the other end unscathed, or there are definitely going to be learnings we can get from this period. And so I'm going to come back to you, Lucy, because I feel like we're in the map room a little bit, and you're in the trenches on the front line. How has the last 12 months made you a better SDR?
I'll let Ben comment on that as well at the back if that's the case. But I think over the last 12 months, that previously it was more like of a mindset of like, I just want to book meetings, I just want to, and I mean, I think every SDR has kind of put something that was maybe a little bit unqualified through to the A and just hope it's sat, basically. But I feel like that used to sort of be the mentality, whereas now it's more thinking about, and perhaps it's more moved into this sort of leadership position, is thinking about what's actually going to close. And the best way to know opportunities and who's been prospecting that are likely to close is looking who's recently closed, like customers you've brought on, and really understanding sort of their motives for purchasing, what pain you could solve, things like that. So I think ICP is really important, and I think really sort of understanding your ICP is like one of the most important things an SDR can do, but that is something which is so dynamic, and I think the last few months have sort of proved that. As I was sort of saying before, like messaging that was working 3 months ago isn't going to work now, and 3 months isn't a long time. But yeah, so it's really about understanding your ICP and thinking what is going to close. And I think that's probably the difference between an SDR now and an SDR that's sort of going to survive this.
Nice.
Typical. Not that you won't survive, you will.
There's your warning. Ellie, we caught up last week, and you did explain that you were one of the many managers who did have to cut people from their team. And you also mentioned that your targets didn't really change. So you were literally told you need to do more with less.
Mm-hmm.
What did you do?
Yeah, so we didn't actually have to get rid of people, but naturally we found that a couple of people either were promoted or left here travelling. So yeah, luckily didn't have to do that. That would have been horrible. But yeah, our target actually this time last year was less than it now currently is, and we have half as many SDRs. So yeah, we really had to step up. I lost my 2 top performers, so there was quite a big gap between the kind of top performers and then the next kind of bracket. Those kind of mid people have really stepped up, so that's been a real credit to them. But in terms of what we've been doing, it's a case of kind of sitting down as a team, really stripping back, looking at exactly who we're targeting. I think I was split up. We talk in our team about hit lists. So who are the people on the hit list, top 10 accounts that you're prospecting, that you're convinced you can get in this month. If you can't, then let's take them off the list. But these are people we want to be focusing on. So it's a case of really drilling down, focusing on that ICP, going much wider and deeper into an account. But also, I think for me the most important thing is relevancy. People talk about personalisation all the time. You hear that all the time. It's a balancing act, getting that right. How do I personalise every single email I'm sending, but also scale it so that I'm hitting enough people? So one of the big things that we changed was we've gone from persona-based cadences to essentially trigger-based cadences. So they're campaigns, they're mini campaigns based upon a reason to reach out to somebody, and we have several buckets of those. We've got tech-based cadences that are performing really, really strongly for us at the moment. So that's essentially identifying, we essentially sell to e-commerce brands, so identifying somebody that's using a piece of tech and being super, super relevant with how we can help that individual. So yeah, it's becoming a lot more kind of specific. That ICP is so important, more important than ever, but also kind of switching up, as Lucy mentioned, the messaging a little bit, making sure that you are, when you've got somebody on the phone, you're making the best use of that time. We are a little bit different, I suppose, Cognism in terms of our cold calls. We have to do quite a lot of discovery on our cold calls, so our cold calls can last up to 20 minutes. If you can manage to keep people on the phone, which my SDRs can, which is an incredible achievement, as it is, but keep people on the phone enough to really engage them. I talk about curiosity a lot in emails. You want to really build that curiosity. The whole point of an email, right, or the whole point of a first touch is simply to get a response, it's to get a reply, it's to get somebody interested in what you have to sell. So you don't just give everything that you have out to them on a plate, it's how can I interest you and how can I actually provide a solution to a problem that I'm assuming you're having based on something I've seen. So yeah, I suppose that's pretty much it.
Excellent. Thank you very much. Trigger events. Yeah. How do you identify trigger events?
So trigger events, as in we call them the compelling events, so a reason to reach out to somebody. It may be that they've previously worked at a company that we have worked with in the past. It may be that they are, have onboarded a piece of tech that we know that they're now using. It could be that they're hiring somebody or they've recently hired somebody. It could be that we've gone on their website and we've noticed something that we feel that we can improve. There's lots of websites, for example, that don't show you very relevant product recommendations. Another one could be, we've got an irrelevant email campaign, we call it. So if you imagine how many times you've shopped with, ASOS, and they just send you a load of emails which has got nothing to do with the stuff you were browsing. So it's a simple case of screenshotting that or doing a vidyard showing them, hey, look, I carted a men's jumper and you're sending me women's dresses. That's not what I want to see. So it's using that to really personalise it and then speak to the prospect.
Nice. I like what you said also about the people that are using the system at the moment and then move. If every SDR saves in LinkedIn or follows, or I think you save in LinkedIn.
Yeah,
every single person, and then when they move away in a few years, every single time they move jobs, you've basically got the pipeline.
Yeah, there's one of the guys on my team, he kind of manually, I think, sort of 6 months ago, made the most incredible list. And now he honestly comes up to me and says things sometimes, I'm like, how do you know that? And it's because he's got this most incredible system, he basically just knows this person's gone here and this person's gone there, and no HubSpot's wrong because they don't work there anymore, and I'm just like, bloody hell. But it's done him the work good, so credit to Aaron.
There you are. So, Cognism. You bottom up. Can you walk us through bottom-up technique and like how useful it's been in the last 12 months.
Yeah, so I suppose contextually, just to I'm going to latch on to this question a little bit, because so ICP is so important. Everything that Ellie said just then is super, super important. That your account selection is your strategy, and for SDR managers, leaders, like the whole strategy goes in the list build in the first place. Obviously, as a company that sells a product where you can list build, like there's a bunch of triggers, but things like tech, there's loads of tools out there. You can choose us, but there's loads of tools out there that can do that and can show you loads of information. So I couldn't agree more. One thing then is the relevance piece, and I saw a post the other day from Josh Braun. Have people heard of Josh Braun? Yeah. So he's like meant to be this. I say meant to be. I'll be nice to him. All right, he's meant to be this like god of sales, right? And he wrote this post that was all about like this is the best email I've ever received, and basically the email said, hey, I listened to a podcast and you said that you had a foot condition. I also have this foot condition, and here's how you heal the foot condition. And it gets like 10,000 likes, loads of videos like, oh my god, this is amazing. And I'm just sat there like, how the fuck do I know what foot condition my prospects have? I'm also, excuse my language, I'm also like, how am I going to know how to fix it? So relevance is super important. We know personalization is really important. That, if you happen to have the same foot condition as a prospect, happy days. But that doesn't scale, right? And I think that's when people talk about personalization, all these gurus talk about personalization, that's the issue. One way that you just heard Ellie doing it is like, and it's absolutely genius, right? Like the whole like signing up for products and going from there is brilliant. What we do is we're targeting, first and foremost, we actually target the end users of our platform, the people that will use our platform. Now that might not be relevant for everybody, but you can also go to like middle managers or people more junior down and closer to it. So essentially we're targeting you lot in the room and we're saying, hey, you use another product, starting with that Z and ending with Bloom Info. And you're probably European, how's that going for you, right? And then we get all these SDRs saying, oh, it's awful, like, the content is awful. We're like, oh, we're really surprised. But then what we're doing is we're just grabbing so much information on them, right? We're grabbing all of the numbers, the statistics, like so outbound for Cognism right now, the SDR team is pretty much exclusively enterprise. Marketing, you've probably seen our marketing team, but marketing sweep up the small companies, we target the really big, massive amounts of companies. And so we need to go to the top people in these organizations, and we've probably got one shot, right? Like I'm really, really impressing them. So we're collecting all the information at the bottom from the end users in that case, but like it could be middle managers, the people that are really close to it. And we're going and we're presenting that to them in a complete business case. And for me, it's the best way of personalizing at scale. So if any of you can use that, it's not necessarily relevant for absolutely everyone, but I think for a lot of you, starting with the bottom, speaking to them and then moving up is just going to be a really effective way of finding relevance.
Nice. It's something we do at Aircall as well for our bigger accounts. Can I ask for context as well? So you mentioned enterprise. What is the kind of average size of companies you're going after? And how many accounts would an SDR at Cognism be working?
Yeah, good question. So we have like a mid-market bracket we call commercial and then enterprises. And commercial is 500 to about 5,000, and then enterprise is 5,000 plus. But you could have a 1 million person company in that.
Yeah.
And 1 million? Does it single 1 million? I don't know. Maybe that's too high. 100,000. So our enterprise team are currently targeting 40 accounts at any given time. Although they also help with the multi-threading. Yeah. So I think, again, it depends. So they're working with the A once the opportunity is created in the first place. And then our commercial team, mid-market team are probably about 60. So it's really, really, really tight targeting very small accounts.
Nice. Cool, thank you very much. Wow. If I can share my own kind of thing from the last 12 months, I think we're lucky enough that we didn't cut any heads, I think more through luck and judgment. But we did slow down hiring a bit. I think the initial reaction when you've got this kind of like growth machine is we're planning to have like 2,000 people by the end of the year or something. And I think we're going to hire an extra 700 people. When it all slows down, everyone thinks it's like less exciting, isn't it? But genuinely, you can quickly find some sort of optimism or some hope from it. Again, I think hiring is so important. SDR managers in the room is probably the most important thing you'll do, but it's also really time consuming. And if you're not doing all this hiring, you've got a lot more time back on your hands to get the most out of all the SDRs you've actually got. So they're my 2 cents.